All right, Bulls and Bears, back with another dose. I hope you are well. Please make sure you are subscribed. Very important time to stay ahead of the financial curve. We've got a lot of news to catch up on today. I think I missed yesterday, so I appreciate those of you that are with me. Quick note before we get started. Those of you that emailed me, I'm sorry I didn't get back. I'm just getting caught up to emails that I received in late July. So I'm really behind, folks. My schedule is just packed, folks. You have a family, when you're married, you have kids, you're still working in the corporate America world, plus my own basically company, and then these videos. I mean, you can imagine I don't have much time to go through emails, and I get hundreds of emails, and I have to sort through a bunch of junk and spam to get to the good ones, the people that are actually asking questions or giving me good feedback, all those things, right? So again, sorry to those of you that emailed me, and I'm still getting caught up here. I'm not even fully caught up. I'm just getting some of the ones from late July, early August. I'd recommend if you want a quick answer to a question, don't come to me. Just telling you the way it is, not to be mean or anything like that. If I was doing this full time, like some people do, then of course I'd have a lot more time. But when you have a lot on your plate, plus you just want to try to get prepared for what I think are going to be much worse times coming at us here down the road, and not far down the road. I'm talking just in the next couple turns and maybe one little straightaway and then another turn. I think we're going to be headed for some very, very wild times. I mean, I say headed for, they're already here. The wild times are already here. Wait till you see some of the news today. I almost can't believe some of the stuff we have to talk about here today. But really, if you've been paying attention, it shouldn't be any surprise. Well, let's get into some other news and forecasts here. Here's one I saw here out of Financial Times. And we like to pick these articles apart, right? Sometimes they're complete nonsense. Some of them make sense. But we try to, paint the economic reality brush. And on everything that we read, everything that we see, we try to question it. We try to dig behind the numbers. Does it make sense? Does it add up? Or is it a bunch of, BS? Take a look at this. U.S. economy headed for soft landing. Interesting. So Financial Times, soft landing, GDP to keep expanding while unemployment will remain relatively low. Economists predict, right? So which economists are predicting this? Well, how's about asking the American people that over half of the people now are barely scraping by? The U.S. is headed for a soft landing as the economy expands while inflation drifts back to Federal Reserve's 2% target. Yeah, now we have to cut rates. It actually hasn't gotten to the 2% target yet. Even if it did, that just means prices are still going higher. So let me ask you this common sense question. If about close to 70% of people are living paycheck to paycheck and the cost of living, aka prices, aka inflation, is still going higher, is that a good thing? No, it's not, right? Wouldn't it be good if prices came down? Right? We need deflation, right? That's the only solution, right? It's the only cure for the illness, right? But they're just giving more beer, shots to the alcoholic. That's all they're doing. And this is not going to be a good ending, folks. A lot of people are fooled. A lot of people believe, that things are headed in the right direction. And of course, we know the incentives there with November, right around the corner. So I wonder how much these economists were paid to say that. Well, not everybody's saying that. Take a look at this. JP Morgan Chase CEOs back out there warns economic fate worse than recession. Did you guys see my videos last week? I think I had one called "Something Far Worse Than a Recession is Coming." And now this headline comes out. Quote, the worst outcome. Of course, Jamie Dimon, he's out there. He's been out there for a few years, raising the alarm bells, sounding the warnings. But in my opinion, they know that this could fall apart at any time. That last report that we talked about, the soft landing, they're saying that the economy continues to grow. Why does it continue to grow? If you've been on this channel, you know exactly why. Because the banks are loaning out money. They no longer have to worry about any reserves. Starting October 1st, we're going to see what happens with that reserve rule. That's going to be changed, maybe. Or will we see a massive bust before then? Remember, we're headed toward the time of year and we're in the business cycle now with the debt levels where they are, way worse than they were last time when everything fell apart. The bursting of the bubble this time, if it's allowed to happen, or if something so big drops, that it will happen even if they don't allow it. And when I say they, I'm talking about the money printers, the powers that be, the economic engineers, right? Something so big could drop that even the powers that be can't keep this thing taped up with duct tape, or they can't tape up Humpty Dumpty, right? I don't know why I just thought of Humpty Dumpty, but the worst outcome is stagflation, says Jamie Dimon. Quote, and by the way, I wouldn't take it off the table. Well, stagflation's already here. But that's the least of the problems here. 68-year-old Dimon made his remarks on Tuesday at the Council of Institutional Investors of New York. Wow, he's 68. Why wouldn't somebody retire at 68 when you have billions of dollars? Interesting. Anyways, let's move on here, folks. Americans are falling behind on their bills. Wait a minute. Somebody tell the Wall Street Journal that these economists discussed in the Financial Times say there's going to be a soft landing. Soft landing for who? What about all these people that are getting behind on their bill? What about the record number of homeless people now? Everything else. What about the people behind on their credit cards? What, half of the people not paying off their balances each month? 1 in 5 credit cards either maxed out or very close to being maxed out. Americans are falling behind on their bills. Wall Street is alarmed. Really? Lenders see a rise in late payments on credit cards and auto loans. Well, it's been rising for, over 2.5 years. But the thing is, it just keeps getting worse. But yet we're supposed to believe we're headed for a soft landing. So don't get me wrong, it could happen, but it's going to be with a lot of rescue programs, just like 2020. 2020 was pretty soft landing considering the magnitude of what happened in 2020 with the shutdowns, everything else. But you had all these rescue programs, right? So 7 million people took advantage of the mortgage rescue program. And otherwise, it would have been worse than the 2008, 2009 housing bubble going bust, right? Do you guys realize that? There would have been more foreclosures in 2020 than we saw in 2007, 2008. By the way, if they would have carried out the same plans or the same rescue programs in 2008 than they did in 2020, the housing bubble back then would have never went bust. If you would have put a freeze on foreclosures, the game would have never come to an end, right? It would have just kept going higher, just like it's happening now. It's inflation. They're not allowing deflation. They're keeping the banks propped up, keeping people in their homes, including rent programs. 7 million people now also, it's 7 million number again, student loans, can't make their payments, right? They had to have this specialized on-ramping of their loans, folks. So people are struggling, but it's like sort of like the welfare state that's been around for decades, but now it's coming to everyday things that people need help with. And pretty soon it's going to be more rent forgiveness or rent moratoriums where people can't get evicted. I think just wait, you're going to be shocked at what's going to happen here, I think, in the next few months. Signs that Americans are struggling to keep up with their bills are setting off alarms on Wall Street. Shares of consumer lending companies slid this past week after executives raised warnings about lower income borrowers who are struggling to make payments. Okay, we've only been talking about that here for a year and a half, how the delinquencies keep rising, how the credit card balances keep rising. So you're telling me now that Wall Street's just now getting alarmed when these signs have been on the wall, the writing's been on the wall for a very long time. Investors have been on high alert for any clues that a recession is in store after 2 years of higher interest rates. Remember, there doesn't have to be a recession. The economy could crash. Inflationary recession could occur. But technically on paper, if it's not 2 consecutive quarters of negative growth, then it's not a recession. So even if a recession happens, even if everybody's financially wiped out, Main Street's wiped out, they still will say it's not a recession if they want to, if they keep creating enough money to pump it into the economy to keep people able to spend more money and go deeper into debt, right? So it's propping up the banks, and then they can just keep the economy look like it's growing. When prices are so high, people have to spend a lot of money. And if you continue to let the banks loan out money with no reserves, this thing could keep going, folks, all the way into even worsening inflation. Now they're saying inflation's coming down, right? But wait until more people get maxed out on their credit cards. It's happening all the time. We're going to see next month's report, and then all the things that are likely to happen in October, or unlikely. I mean, will they even pass the new? It's already passed, but will they implement the new banking regulations in October? You let me know, right? I don't have a crystal ball, but I can definitely see some things on the wall. Inflation falls to its lowest level in more than 3 years, and it's still not good because prices are still going up even more. Look at this. Another sign of a soft landing, right? The surge in auto loan defaults, 15-year high. Reason to panic? No reason to panic. It's because the economists told us it's a soft landing, right? So will there be a moratorium on vehicle repossessions? But it's a lot here. Let's look at some of the numbers here. Highest level in 15 years, all the way here as of looks like July. And it hasn't been this high since, go all the way back here. Look at this, 2008, 2009, right? Remember, back then they were talking about a soft landing too, all through 2008. Do they have a lot of new tricks they're using now to keep this economy looking like it's growing? Absolutely. Again, the banks right now, zero reserves, folks. We didn't have that in 2008. So people think the lending was crazy back then with the no document loans, the liar loans, stated income loans, interest only loans, adjustable rate mortgages, all those things. It's even crazier now, folks. A zero reserve requirement for the banks. That's never been done. That started in 2020 for the first time here in the U.S. U.S. corporate bankruptcies, the filings spiked again in August. So we're on pace to beat last year, and last year was the worst year since 2020 for corporate bankruptcies. So as I said here, it's going to continue to get worse. Brace, buckle up, black swans everywhere. Something's going to bring this down, folks. And that's the good outcome. If something brings us down, that's the better of the scenarios that I see. If a black swan doesn't bring this thing to a halt, you're going to see more inflation. That's even worse, right? A deflationary recession or crash or economic downturn, it's more noticeable and it's more shocking to a lot of people because it can happen suddenly, a string of bank failures, something like that. But if the banks continue to remain propped up with endless amounts of money creation, which is definitely possible, that's even worse, right? It's not as scary because it plays out a little bit more slowly, but overall it's worse. A couple more things here. Used vehicle prices increased in August. So auto delinquencies the worst in 15 years, yet vehicle prices went up in August. Now it's still a downtrend, but ask yourself this. If delinquencies are the worst in 15 years for automobile loans, shouldn't the price of vehicles be coming down? Shouldn't there be a lot of vehicles getting repossessed, a lot more than inventory, a lot more dealers trying to sell these vehicles at lower prices to get rid of the inventory? Why is it happening? Well, if you've been on this channel, you should know. With all the vacant commercial real estate right now, there's a lot of parking lots that these dealers have to put their overflow or excess inventory. Therefore, they don't have to cut prices. See what's going on here? If they had limited space to put these vehicles, they would be slashing prices to clear the lots, right? But what they're praying for and hoping for is the rate cut cycle to begin. We already know there's going to be one coming up very shortly. And I think these car dealers, they're hoarding a lot of vehicles. They're not cutting their prices because they think better buying days are ahead. But I think it's a severe miscalculation because the consumer is in such bad shape. Even these rate cuts are not going to bring a slew of buyers back to the car market, even with the banks being propped up. But hey, I could be wrong. Please let me know what you think about all this down below. Are these dealers making a mistake by not getting rid of this excess inventory? They have overflow lots, a lot of vacant parking lots where they have overflow lots. Talked about that here a few times. What do you think about all this, people? Let me know down in comments. Hope everybody's having a good weekend. I might be back on Sunday. By the way, I'm putting this video out late Saturday night, September 14th. A couple of the emails that I read are people with their own channels asking me for advice. Folks, I can't give you advice. My channel's not growing really. And I can see why. I'm putting this video out on Saturday night. This is the worst time to put out a video. If you want to be a successful YouTuber, don't do what I do. I do all the wrong things. I don't put out content at a normal time. It's scattered. I miss days, and sometimes I'll have 2 videos. It's all over the place, folks. But anyways, I do what I can. Thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting me. Big love, everybody. Bye now. Have a good weekend. Peace.